May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my Lord and my Redeemer. Good morning. I first came to Christ Church Cathedral in the Episcopal Church about 10 years ago. Initially, I came because I was looking for a liturgical church. I knew I needed the Eucharist, and I didn't want to lose it. I knew, too, that I was looking for a church where it authentically felt like a place that was centered around Christ's ministry of love and justice. I wanted a church where all people would be encouraged to read and to reach for and express ministry as they were individually called by God, regardless of gender or identity or their place in society. So I walked into this church that day, and I was astonished. I was moved to tears by the liturgy and the music, and I knew I was home. I heard the scriptures in a way I never had before. I think I heard Amos for the first time I ever remember hearing it here at Christ Church Cathedral. And I was thunderstruck at the message of the call to justice in ministry. As I got to know more about the people of the church, of this church and of the Episcopal Church, I came to know a church that was striving to truly see and honor the dignity of every person and to share the blessings of God and the ministries of God with them. And on top of that, there were women at the altar. In this parable today, told only in Luke, Jesus has been addressing the Pharisees who we're told were fond of money. And when they scoff at his parables, he tells them, "You are those who justify yourselves before men, but God knows your hearts. For what is exalted among men is an abomination in the sight of God." And then he tells his parable we hear today. This rich man is similar in many ways to the dishonest manager from last week. Both seem successful for a time. Both are unaware of the evil of mishandling and hoarding wealth. The rich man from today cannot or will not see Lazarus, who came to his gate every day to beg. This is, I believe, the man's sin, not his wealth, but his unwillingness to see the dignity of the man in front of him, to see his need and to share from the abundance that has been given to him. He knows Lazarus' name, so we might assume the rich man knew about his plight and had done nothing in response. Even if he didn't know about the man who consistently sat outside his gates, even after death, he still sees Lazarus as only being available to serve his personal needs. He says to Abraham, "Send Lazarus to help me in my distress." And it's too late now. The chasm that now separates the rich man and Lazarus with Abraham confirms the finality of this judgment. Once there was no chasm, but indifference and apathy. The rich man could have come to Lazarus at any time, and now the chasm is permanent. The rich man next asks that Lazarus be sent to warn his brothers so that they don't end up in Hades as well. Admirable, I suppose, that he's thinking of someone else, but he's still thinking of Lazarus as just his errand boy. Abraham, however, says that they have Moses and the prophets. They should listen to them. They should listen to Moses, who said in Deuteronomy 15:7, Do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards your needy neighbor. And they should listen to Isaiah, who said in Isaiah 58, 6-7, "Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and to bring the homeless into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin?" If the brothers won't hear the scriptures and the prophets, they won't be convinced, even if one should rise from the dead, Abraham tells him. How could it be that one would rise from the dead and anyone still refuse to repent? At the beginning of the parable, hearers and readers might have assumed that they are expected to identify with Lazarus or the rich man. But by the end of the parable, I believe it's clear that we stand in the footsteps of the rich man's siblings. The siblings who are still alive and have time to open their eyes to see the poor and the oppressed at their gates and on our street corners, to see the sick desperate to access health care, to see the immigrants struggling to find safe homes to raise their families, to see people trying to find and hold on to safe and stable homes for their families in our own communities, to see and respond before the chasm becomes permanent. We have Moses and the prophets, ancient and current. We have the scriptures. We even have Jesus Christ, who has risen from the dead. Christ Church Cathedral has been abundantly blessed. And the cathedral and its people over the years have been blessing in so many ways to multitudes of people. The question is, will we continue to see and heed the opportunities to cross the chasms opening before us today while we have time? May it be so.